Okay, question number 5 is where we'll start. What do you consider your strengths? What are you good at? What are you strong in? Your Strength Explorer themes, so those ones that you got from the Naviance Strength Explorer, things like competitive, caring, dependable, future thinker. Those are a great way to answer this one, but make sure you tie it to how it applies to your future. So if you got competitive, a strength of yours is that you're competitive, you work really hard to try to win because that's one of the things that motivates you. Caring would be that you pay attention to detail, you really think about what you're doing before you do it, and you really apply compassion to the things that you do. Dependable, you're on time, you show up for the things that you're trying to participate in, you commit to what you're doing, and you put in the effort to try every time that you're there. So you want to apply it to your future, specifically how it would be helpful in a job. Doesn't have to be the specific job that you're looking into. Number 6, what is one thing that challenges you? So pick something that is hard for you to do, but make it sound positive or detail how you overcome it. That's really important. You can't just say that, you suck at reading. You have to say it's a challenge, but this is how you overcome it, or this is how you work to kind of make it not a negative. For example, I have a hard time staying organized when I get stressed. So right now I am having a very hard time staying organized because we're under more stress than we normally would be. But I work extra hard to make sure that I'm organized. I speak to other teachers about how they're staying organized with their work. I use tools to help me accomplish. I have a planner. I use the calendar on Google to make sure that I'm not missing appointments and I'm doing everything that I'm supposed to be doing. So it's really important that you spin it in a positive way and make it sound really good. Question 1, tell me a little bit about yourself and why you're interested in this position. Explain who you are as a person. The rough rule of thumb is to say something about your recent past, something that's currently happening, and a plan you have for the future. And explain why you like this career. You might be interested in having it in the future. Be prepared not to mention it again. None of these questions, or none of the way that you answer these questions should be repetitive. Make sure that they're all different questions, okay? And then you want to make sure you answer both of those because there's 2 different questions there. So make sure you tell me about yourself and then why you're interested in the job that you and I decided on. Question 4, what do you think your references would say if they were contacted? So references are people that will support your good moral character. Reference is someone like an adult in your life that has interacted with you, that could give you positive feedback on getting a job. So if you filled out an application to work somewhere, you would want to put that person's name down because you know that they would say good things about you to help you get that job. I will be a reference for every 8th grade student. So if you were answering this question, what would I say about you? Give a specific example of something I would say. Maybe I've seen you do something or heard you do something or I witnessed you do something. It could be a coach has seen you do something. So maybe you work really hard on your team. Even though you're not a team captain, you still show up and do your job the best that you can. And your coach would say that, you're a positive role model for other people on the team. That's what a reference is. That's what you need to have. It can be teachers, coaches. It could be club advisors. It could be extracurricular things. It could be out of school people that you know or that you were a part of different organizations like Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, 4-H, any of those kinds of things, okay? You also want to make sure that you ask them permission to use them as a reference. And you should just check with them before, just make sure it's okay for them to use you as a reference. Question 2, what is your goal if you get this position? And question 3, what is something you can bring to this company? Be very careful because these can be misinterpreted. And I purposely put them together to kind of compare, contrast them. So number 2 is asking, what is your intention when you are hired in this job? What are you going to try to achieve? I want you to understand that it is taboo to talk about money during an interview. You do not ever bring up money. You don't bring up how much you want to make. You don't ask what the salary is. You just use the other parts of your job. Really good to bring in those typical tasks of a job to answer this. So if you wanted to, be a veterinarian, typical tasks of a veterinarian are to talk to patients, heal and diagnose animals, and then possibly perform surgery on animals. Those are your typical tasks in that job. That should be what your goal is. So that's what you want to achieve. As a teacher, my goals are to connect with my students and give them meaningful learning experiences and attempt to help them become better people for our future. Those are my goals in my job. So that's what I want you to talk about. That's what you're trying to kind of connect with that person. You want them to understand why you should be in that job. Number 3, what do you think you can bring to this company? So they're asking, walking in on day 1, what would you have? You already have your personality, your knowledge, your skills, your abilities. Pick something to talk about. The rule of thumb with an interview or your resume is to talk about 3 things to answer it. So if you can come up with 3 different, either personality, knowledge, skills, or abilities, a combination of those, that would be great. That's going to make it the easiest to kind of explain yourself. Please don't repeat anything from question 5 or question 1. So whatever you talked about as your skills in question 5 should not be repeated in question 1, and you should not be repeating anything from question 1 about who you are as a person. In number 3, what do you think you can bring to this company? You have to have 3 very different answers. Question 7, do you have any previous work experience, either related or unrelated to this position? Yes, everyone has experience. You've experienced a ton of things in your life. You can talk about any sports that you've played. You can talk about any clubs you've been a part of, any special events, anything that you've done extracurricular. You can also talk about your school experience. Just be careful with this because you are going to have to list out both experience and school on your resume, so you don't want to have it in 2 places. So if you talk about school in this one, focus on something specific. For example, if you're really into music, maybe you talk about the fact that you have experience in music classes. Maybe you're in both band and chorus, or orchestra and chorus. Talk about that unique opportunity. Don't talk about school in general to answer this one, because yes, you are gaining experience by being in school, but that I want you to talk about your schooling in a different section on your resume, okay? Question 9, why should we hire you over other people applying for this position? What makes you so special? Please, for the love of God, do not say I'm the best, because you have no proof of that, first of all. And second of all, you have no way to verify that from everyone in the universe. A better answer is to say that you're going to give 100% every day, but the best answer you can give is to tell a unique story of yourself. So when I was in high school, I didn't know what I wanted to do when I grew up. I never had an answer when someone asked me. So when my guidance counselor asked me what was I going to do after high school, I said, I don't know. What am I going to do? So she had me fill out this little survey and pick out what my interests are and the things I like. And one of the things that came up was like mysteries and crime documentaries, and like puzzles and figuring out like who done it in a game. Like that was really fun to me. So she said, well, why don't you look into forensic science? And I said, that would be cool. So I got an internship opportunity, but they unfortunately don't take any high school students at forensic science in the Mohawk Valley. So I had to switch to something else. And at first she said, well, you could go with a lawyer. And I said, nope, I don't want to be in the law system. I know it's a really hard path to get there, and you have to learn, like memorize a lot of stuff, and I can't do that. And then she said, well, the other choice is you could go to a funeral home. I said, with dead people? She said, yeah. So for my junior year of high school, I went to a funeral home 3 days a week and worked there to like learn about it and see if it was something I wanted to do. I started out with just clerical work and like filling out paperwork. And then I wrote an obituary for an older gentleman who had passed away. I laminated probably about 1,000 prayer cards, and I helped put makeup on a lady who had passed away to get her ready for her calling hours. I learned some things about what happens to the body after someone is deceased and what has to happen in order to make it pleasant for their family to see them and say their final goodbyes. I learned a lot about the different procedures with preparing the body for death and what has to happen for that. You have to do something called an embalming, where you remove all the bodily fluids, including the blood, and then you replace it with embalming fluid so that it basically preserves the body through calling hours, funeral, church services, and then a burial. So you have to do that in order to make it safe, not safe, but make it so that the body doesn't start decomposing when you're there. So that was how I answered this question when I was asked that question for this job at VBS. And I ended with saying that because I had that experience in the funeral home, it made me realize that I wanted to work with people that were alive and weren't dealing with, the death of a loved one or sadness, and that it was something that made me realize I wanted to help people with the beginning of their lives and how they wanted to kind of plan out their future. So that's how I decided to be an FCS teacher. Question 8, where do you want to be in 5 to 10 years? In 5 years, you'll be graduating from high school. In 10 years, you'll be graduating from college. I want you to list out 5 goals you have for your future / career life and life in general. 2 of them would have been from our coat of arms project that we were supposed to do in the beginning of the marking period, but we didn't do it for remote learning. But you can come up with life goals that you'd like to just achieve in your life. Like maybe you want to learn another language, or you want to travel somewhere. One of your goals should be that you're getting the education necessary to be hired in the job, whether that be a high school diploma or a bachelor's degree or whatever it has to be. And then one goal should be working in the career field or the career cluster that you're looking at. So maybe you want to be a firefighter, or you're not sure and you want to be something in the emergency services career cluster. That's what you would be listing here. Okay. And then definitely those life goals, but please come up with 5 total. You need to have 5 to answer this. Question 10, what is one accomplishment you're most proud of and why? You have done you should be extremely proud of the things that you've done. I want you to pick one thing that you've done that you're proud of and tell me why you're proud of it to answer this question. So pick something that you've done that you're extremely proud of, and then just remember to tell me why you're proud of it. If I were to answer this question, probably be the birth of my son. That was a big accomplishment. And having him, being able to teach him and parent him, that's one of my biggest accomplishments that I've done in life. All right. Make sure that you hit submit on Google Classroom by the due date, and don't forget to answer all of the questions to the best of your ability. Thanks for joining me today, and I hope this was helpful.